This is Extend Roundtable, a podcast of Extend Cafes. And with this podcast, it's our goal to inspire kingdom cafes. And we welcome each of you here. We welcome our listeners. Thank you for joining us. And I'm excited today to be introducing Ray Yutzy, the Ray Yutzy. Ray, it's good to have you here with us. I'm not sure when I met you, Ray. It's been a long time. We've weathered some battles together. We started our cafe. We're heading towards 10 years ago, September of 2015. And a year or so after that, I think Ray came in. He might tell a little bit about that. And I got to meet Ray there at Sowers and began to work together. They got their cafe started out in Iowa City, Iowa, Encounter Cafe. And I'm sure some of you have been there. Actually, I know some of you have. And it is a top shelf cafe, no doubt. And a lot of that has to do with Ray Yutzy. Ray, your energy has always impressed me. 10 years ago, I was 31 and you were 61. And I had a hard time keeping up with you at 31. And you're still going strong. I understand you're at the Encounter Cafe every day still. Pretty much 6 days a week, right?
Sometimes.
Okay. So Ray is 70.
Not necessarily intentionally, but
Ray is 72 years old. And yeah, I've been really impressed with him in many ways. We actually we organized a conference together. Remember that?
Kingdom Cafe.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that was back in 2019. So about 6 years ago, it was right before Reach conference. And it was you and I, and was there anybody else involved with that? I couldn't remember today.
Yeah. AJ Ratelli at September Farms, I think.
September Farms. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's I forgot about that. Yeah, they were a big help. Anyhow, and so yeah, we call it the Kingdom Cafe Forum, and then due to a number of things, we just never got the momentum for a second one. We had a lot of interest. We had a lot of people there. They actually kind of got big on us. We weren't expecting that.
Yeah.
And so the challenge is wow, how do we kind of handle this? And then life happened, and well, here we are, 6 years later. Hoping to have another conference here in a couple months. Nev will be telling us about that, the Extend conference here at the end of this call. So, but Ray, yeah, so a special welcome here. Good to have you here, and I'm going to turn it over to you. So, and your title is Lessons Learned 7 Years Leading Encounter Cafe. So, it's all yours.
Thank you, Bryant. And
You're welcome.
yeah, I just want you to know I've truly appreciated our friendship. I think it might have been sometime late 2015 when we actually stopped in at Soars Harvest with some of our staff from Penn Valley. And then you were at Penn Valley a time or two, and we got to meet there and talk. And later we were back to Soars to eat again. And so, yeah, loved the connection to Soars. And we have a lot of wonderful feelings towards Soars because they helped us so much in getting started and trained a couple of girls for us for a couple of weeks. And I don't think I ever got a bill for that, Bryant. You may want to reconsider there, but
okay, I'll look into that. I'll look into that.
That'd be a good idea. But just in starting off here, I just want to make sure that what happens today has nothing to do really with who Ray is or what he has accomplished or what he's done, but rather how the Lord has helped us hitherto. And we give him all the glory and the honor for that. And I want that to come through, but also am hoping that in some of the things that I share today, you may gain a little encouragement or an idea or whatever the case may be that will be helpful to you. And I don't, and by the way, another correction, Bryant, I am actually 75 going on 76.
Okay. Well, Wow.
72 or whatever you said. But
You
oh
just look
yeah,
so much younger than that. So sorry about that.
yeah. Well, that's thank you for that. I feel old. 'Cause I've had a few health challenges in the last 3 years, and but it God has been so faithful and so good, and I'm able to be at work, and I thoroughly enjoy what I do, and yet I'm limited compared to what I used to be able to do 10 years ago. So, getting started, I'm going to just give you a little bit of a history of how the encounter was started or what created the vision for it. And again, we have sowers to thank for that, but back in the spring of 16, one of the pastors from our church was on his way to Lancaster for a pastors conference, Beachy Ministers Conference, and stopped in State College to spend the night with some friends there. And the next morning, the friends took him to Sower's Harvest for breakfast. And so, as Elwin, that's his name, sat there, he started observing the people coming in and what they were doing after they were there, after they had ordered and so forth, and just noticed the students. And that really stood out to him. And as he sat there and observed, and I don't know, Brian, I don't even know if you were there that morning, and it doesn't matter, but um, all of a sudden it hit him. We live close to the University of Iowa, and we could do that in Iowa City. And so from Sowers, they left there, drove down to Penn Valley, where my wife and I were serving, and stopped in to visit us for a bit. And he got out of his vehicle, and after the exchange of greetings and so forth, he said, "Ray, I know what our church needs to do." And then he proceeded to tell me what was happening to him from his experience at Sowers. "What do I do with that?" he asked me. And I said, "Why don't you go home and share that vision with your co-leaders, co-pastors, and see what happens, see what they say." And so, and then, well, what then? And I said, "Well, then go to the church and see what the church says." So that's basically what happened. And um, he went to Lancaster to the meeting, and then while he was there, he chanced to talk to Marion Miller from Ohio, who was involved with the walk at Zanesville. And so that gave him new energy, more interest in what he was feeling. So so he goes back home and he shared what had happened to him at Sowers with his co-leaders. And it was just like an instant interest. They were all very interested in pursuing this. And so they took it to the church and almost got 100% support and interest from the congregation, which was very unexpected to them and to me. But after that, it was like, what do we do now? So they formed a committee, put a committee together, and started investigating the possibility for Iowa City. They met with the banker, because you need money, right? Met with the banker, met with an accountant, met with a real estate person, and an attorney. Those four people they met with, not all together, but separately, shared their vision, shared the idea with what they want to do. And every one of them at some point in the conversation reminded them that starting a food establishment uh, has the highest ratio of failure in starting any business. And so it was with that kind of encouragement that they moved ahead.
Yeah.
um, but everybody liked the idea, and it was presented as a place that would be for the students to come to have a safe place to come to study. And hang out, sort of, not really hang out, but study primarily. Very seldom anybody comes in here just to hang out. Um, Sometimes you see them sitting in a booth by themselves and maybe they fall asleep or whatever. But um, at any rate, that's kind of the reaction they got. But the real estate person was from one of the more liberal Mennonite churches here locally, and he said, "I will pursue a location for you."
Mm.
And so there were different ones that were suggested, and about a block and a half north of where we're at now, there's a place called the Ped Mall, and it's a street that was closed off for pedestrians only. And everybody thought, hey, that might be a good place to have a cafe coffee shop, because that is where a lot of students go, especially evenings. And after they went there and talked to some others, that was discarded as a bad idea because basically 80% of the businesses down through there were bars. And it wasn't long after they had started the process of looking into a location that a murder took place right there on the Ped Mall. And so that was no longer an option. We told the board at Penn Valley that we would be terminating 1st of March of 2017. And we told them that a year ahead because that's what they wanted. They wanted a year notice. So we were going to be coming home 1st of March of 17. And this was back in 16 when all this happened. Well, during the summer of 16, I kept getting texts and emails from Elwyn saying, "Man, this thing is going. It's catching on. We just need a location. We have the everything else in place pretty much to just go for it." And so in March we terminated, but we came home. We had an ordination in our church. We wanted to be at home for that. We came home for that. And just as we got back into Iowa, got a phone call, said, "Hey, we are going to look at a couple of locations this afternoon. Could you just join us and help us look at them?" So we went to the house, kind of unloaded a few things, came back to Iowa City, and I was able to go with them to look at two locations. One of them, which is across the street west of us right now. Neither one of us really liked that too well. It kind of set up high off of the ground. And and then the other one is where we're at today. And there was some discussion before we ever went inside the first place that we don't want to leave an impression to the real estate person that we're pretty excited about a location now. Look at it, keep your feelings to yourself, and after we get done, we'll go back out on the street and we'll talk a little bit and see where we want to go from there. So we came to the second place, which is this location where we're at. And we started looking at the possibilities and just kind of basically talking about where we could do this, where we could do that, and so forth. And where this was all one big area at that time, and where we would put a wall in, shut it off there for the original space that we had. And that was like 2,700 square feet, I think, something like that. And so anyway, it wasn't long until somebody just kind of spilled the beans. One of the committee men said, "Man, I like this place. I like this." And well, it kind of opened the door for the rest of us to say, "Yeah, we do too. We think this could work." And so anyway, I think Wendell, the real estate person, knew he had a live one here. But he was so helpful and still comes in occasionally today. He's a good friend of mine, and he just loves what is happening here and is very supportive of what we're doing. Back
Yeah.
to my journey, sometime in late summer of 16, when this thing was coming together here, I got a phone call from Elwyn. He said, "Hey, we as a committee have been talking about it, wondering if you would be willing to be the general manager of the Encounter Cafe when you come home. And it was not something I had even thought of. I wasn't even thinking about being involved with it in any way. And it was just like, oh, well, I had nothing else planned. I had no other um, nothing planned to do when I got home in terms of employment. So we prayed about it, talked about it, and my wife was very supportive, and so we agreed to do that. And at that point, thinking we'd be home the 1st of March, in the meantime, started a building project at Penn Valley. And by the time we wanted to come home, the permitting was not completed, and I was deep in the middle of that. And the board there wanted me to stay until that's done and at least get some work done. So July the 1st, we finally terminated there and came home and immediately went into the Encounter here and started buying stuff and putting things together. And we're not sure just exactly when we would open. Ended up opening August the 27th, a month and a half later after we got home. One of the things that happened, of course, during that time was we sent two girls to Sowers for training. And so when they came back, they knew a lot of things that I didn't know. And that was great. They helped me figure out what we needed to order, what we needed to have here on opening day. So thank you, Brian, again for that very, very valuable training. So the idea was headed toward fulfillment. And again, by the time we opened the doors here, I think everyone in the church was very supportive of it. And at some point before we ever came back, the 1st of July, they had a dedication service here in the area where it was being built out. It wasn't completed by no means, but the church, they brought a bunch of chairs up, and it seemed like almost everybody from church was here for that dedication service that night. So they had that, and I want to read to you just a section, just a little one-liner or one line out of the dedication prayer that was offered that evening for the Encounter Cafe. This is it. May our clients find this cafe as a sanctuary, a reprieve, a rest, and a refreshment from the storms, the distress, and the evil that exists outside these doors.
Wow.
So, yeah, a powerful statement there, a powerful prayer. And so we opened the doors and immediately we're overwhelmed. We were going to have a 2-week soft opening, which I'm sure you're familiar with that kind of a process. But we never experienced a soft opening. What happened just around the corner, east and south of our location here, there was something called Little Village Online News. And every evening, this person would put out an online Iowa City news report. And she had been walking past here, not quite daily, but she would stop and she would talk to the contractors and the workers, say, "Oh, okay, what's going on here?" "Well, cafe, coffee shop going in." "Well, what's it going to be like?" "We don't know. We don't know." And so she would keep asking, "Okay, when is it opening?" And so she finally got the date when it was going to be open. So she was one of the first people in here and wanted an interview. And so I did an interview with her, and she said, "I'm going to put this out tonight." And I said, could you please send me a copy of what you're going to put out? And I just want to review it before you put it out. Well, she sent me a copy, all right, but it was after she had already published it. So in reading it, she did well. She really did well. She stayed with what I tried to inform her of, and but interestingly enough, that caught the eye of the local daily newspaper, the Iowa City Press Citizen. So the day we opened, everybody seemed to know that we opened. Press Citizen came in, wanted an interview. And so we did that. And so they published that the next day. the Daily News from Cedar Rapids, which also covers Iowa City Gazette. They came the next day, wanted an interview. We did that, and they were barely gone until Channel 8 TV walked in, totally unannounced, wanted an interview. So we did that. One of the things that they would keep asking, what's the vision? What's the goal here? What are you, a for-profit? Are you a nonprofit? Well, we are a for-profit. And so I made it clear to them that the profits all go away from us. They go to other missions, other charities. They do not go back to our church. It's not something that we're doing to financially benefit us, but rather others. Well, that caught the attention of a lot of people. And so we were just filled up from day 2 and 3 from there on pretty much. 3 years after we opened, I had the chance to visit with a couple who was here to eat, and they said, we are from northern Iowa, and we have been wanting to come here ever since we saw your interview on TV, and we finally made it. And so that was interesting. But in going back to that phrase in the prayer, it has been amazing how many people come inside, not Christian necessarily, but just off the street. They come in and say, what's going on here? And so when you start talking to them, well, we knew there was something different when we walked in the door. And we just praise God for that. God alone can do that. It doesn't really matter. It does matter how loving and how kind we are. Certainly it matters. We want to be Christ-like. But it was the Spirit of God in the place which we pray for daily. And that was creating that kind of atmosphere that was attractive to them. So that was part of our business plan, was that the profits would all go away from us. And some of the kind of things that we have been supporting locally, we do some other ministry missions that are not local, but locally, Big Brothers Big Sisters, we've supported them some. There's a pregnancy clinic in Iowa City called Informed Choices that meets with the pregnant ladies and tries to help them understand and show them God's love, to help them understand that there's a better choice than abortion. And so we support them. There's a Faith Christian Academy in town. We do support them some. There's other charities. You're familiar with them in your own towns too, and that are good and good community good community things. And so the interesting thing is that with that news going out that our money goes away from us, that has created a lot of requests for money. And so charities, churches, schools, you name it, I get emails, I get phone calls, can you help us? Could you give us money, and so forth? And so we have had to establish some criteria to know what to help and what not to help. So we're very, very careful about this. And I kind of have a standard email response that I use to suggest that we are not going to be able to help them with their request. I'm not sure what more to share. Then in May of 22, we expanded. We took the wall out, or some of the wall between us and a little Chinese street food place that had gone in right beside us. They had taken about 18, 20 feet of the next space. And then beyond that, there was a large area that was used for storage only. We had stuff there. The contractor had stuff there. The building owner had stuff there. But we wanted the space next door for a bakery and additional seating. Well, in essence, when you start looking at what we had there for additional seating, was very little. And so the building owner said, I'll make you a deal if you just take the whole space from street to alley. Well, that seemed huge, and it was. It's like 7,200 square feet plus. And but the decision was made to do that with his help and his assistance. And even though it's an expensive lease, we have a location that in Iowa City that it's one of the high dollar leases. And so that's a challenge. Every first of every month, you got to come up with all this money for a lease, and kind of sets you back a little bit. So you climb back out of that and go on. So the expansion gave us a total, I think right now we have like 180 chairs and 50 some tables that we have. And it's been a challenge to provide food, get food over in the cafe area and have seating over in the new area. And we take the orders, we give them a number that they can take back to their table. When they lay it on the table, it shows up on a screen where staff picks up the order to take to the table. On the screen, it tells them customer number here is on table number here, and it's very accurate. And unless they move, they can take the food straight to the table and leave it there. So it's a great system. If you ever need anything like that, I'd be happy to talk to you about where we got that and all that. We tried one from Australia that was so inaccurate. The staff finally said, you know what? That's a pretty good system. It gets us within 100 miles of the table. And that was about a fact too. It was just awful, actually. And we used that for a couple of years, 3 years maybe. But you still had to keep looking around for the number. So this system is very accurate, and we love it. So
Hmm.
we I would just be open for questions. I don't there's more I could say about the expansion and so forth. And yeah, on Saturdays, we've simply had to set up ribbons for crowd control. They come in the door and they have to come down toward my office and back around almost to the door and then back to the point of sale. And that gets full, and the people standing in line clear back behind me to the bakery. By the way, if you've not seen our walkthrough, you're welcome to go to our website. It's theencountercafe.com, and you can there's a button on there for a walkthrough of the whole space. So you can go in and just move through and look around with your mouse and so forth. Feel free to do that, and maybe you've already done that. Um, but yeah, I have a few questions for you guys that once we kind of get into a little bit of an open forum here. But back to you, Bryant. I'm just going to stop there with that and answer questions if you have any.
Okay, thank you so much, Ray. You guys got some really good reviews here online, so good work. I'm curious. Yeah, a lot of questions. You obviously have quite. You have one of the largest cafes in this ecosystem. So that I'm sure that's brought its opportunities and ways to serve your guests, but I can only imagine it has brought its challenges as well. How do you you don't have wait servers, right? Or do you? Who's running that food out with that number system? I didn't quite track there.
We like to have at least one floor person on schedule every
Okay.
day. And we are blessed. Got a couple of older men. They're actually younger than I am, but they're older in our church. And they are basically retired and wanted something to do. We have hired them. They're on our payroll, actually, to come in and be a floor person and clean tables and carry food out to the customer, and they enjoy it. The customers love them. They enjoy interacting with them, and that has really been a win-win for us. And so if you have an opportunity to use people like that, feel free to do it. And I'm not sure. And I keep telling the board, you guys need to be actively looking for a replacement for me. And they said, well, why? You're doing okay. Don't see anything wrong. Well, and they have been so gracious through my health struggles and so forth that to give me freedom to come and go as I need to and please. And we had we had one board meeting that I think was a wake up call for them, and it was in the first of February, the first Monday of February in 2022. 22. Yeah, I think that's right. My wife and I had been in Florida the last week of January. We just got home on a Saturday night, and somewhere along the line, I think I know where, but somewhere along the line, I had contracted a virus in Florida. And so I came home sick. And but Monday morning there was a board meeting, and so I called one of the board members, said, "Could I ride up with you?" And he brought me up, and I told my wife, "I'll call you and let you know when to come pick me up." So but anyway, the board meeting didn't last very long. So unbeknownst to me, in other words, I was a little bit ignorant of my condition, but the board detected right away that this guy's not fit to be talking about important things. And so they basically just said, we'll just resume this later sometime. And well, I ended up in the hospital for a few days with that
Wow.
silly virus. It's one of those things that babies have it, and it's called RSV. And if you look it up, there's initials for it, and I can never remember what it is. But for an older person, it can knock them down. And that's kind of what happened to me.
Wow.
And it's kind of silly, but anyway, then from there, back surgery, and from there, hip replacement. And so
Wow.
I'm a new man. But
um,
that was kind of a wake up call. And so, but we keep talking about it, and I do enjoy sitting here taking care of finances. I do the payroll. I do ordering. Um, yeah, I like to take care of the staff. I don't do the hiring. I don't do the scheduling. That's a blessing for me because that alone is a big job. But one of the board members does all of that for the encounter.
sure.
And
Hmm.
so,
So, question for you, and then I'm going to open it up here for others to ask you. So, as with cafes, the heart of that is your team, right? And I think many of us know the the importance of keeping your team engaged and doing well. Um, how how have you done that their encounter? What are some of the lessons you've learned to keep your team doing well, flourishing, if you will?
yeah. Well, if you want to hear some of my mistakes, I have a tendency to micromanage, and at the beginning of the encounter, that was a real weakness for me. And I just felt like I had to be involved in every segment, every phase, everything that's going on. I need to know what's happening because I pay the bills. Doesn't that make sense? You got to know what's going on. And so in my effort to micromanage, I really alienated some of the staff to the
Hmm.
point where I just had to go back in brokenness and say, I am so sorry. Please forgive me. If you know what that feels like, it's not necessarily easy, but it is a very freeing experience and should be a learning experience. And I wish I could tell you I never did it again, but I did. There were times when I failed again, and I have to go back and apologize. So that was a lesson for me. But one thing that I personally try to do is just engage them on a daily basis in their positions. Just how's it going? What can I do to help you? And then at the end of the day, I just go along and just say thank you personally to every one of them for their hard work for that day. I don't know if that's what you're alluding to. Beyond that, we have a fairly heavy ratio of turnover in staff. And it seems like people want to work here. They hear good things about it. And so they come, they work for 6 months to something like that, and then find another ministry to go to. And we bless them. We don't try to talk them out of it. We say, if you feel called to go, go, because we're not the only ministry that needs help. We have more recently, in the last year and a half, we have had some people coming from out of state to work for us. And of course, we don't have volunteers except for dishwashing on Saturday. Everybody is a paid employee. They get all their tips. By the way, we pay tips by the hour, by the day. And I think it's the only fair way. And we add cash to the credit card tips. So taxes are all taken out and they're all in.
Interesting.
And but engaging the staff, and then we have a new kitchen manager, floor manager, as you call him, whatever you want to call him, and does a fantastic job. He is a person that can focus. He's efficient. He likes to see efficiency, and figures out ways to make things work better in the line
Wow.
of duty.
That's huge.
It's huge, and it has made such a difference in the kitchen. But as you probably all know, in our culture, change doesn't come easy. And so when you have somebody comes in and can instigate some changes or is trying to instigate changes, sometimes there's just a pushback. Oh, hold it. We've been here longer than you. And so it's just the kind of thing you just kind of push through and keep encouraging them. Let's keep trying it. Let's keep trying it. And before long, they're saying, wow, this is great. This is nice. And I don't know. I was going to try to figure out what our percentage of turnover is in staff. Dave Ramsey said that the average turnover rate in staffing a restaurant is like 300% a year.
Okay.
And
Hmm.
I don't know how much below that. We're below that, but
Sure.
maybe not as much as we'd like to be.
Yeah, well, that's kind of one of the quote liabilities, of the restaurant industry is that turnover, but it can also be an opportunity to be embraced because you get to invest in a lot of people, right? And
Precisely.
we're thinking of doing a 10-year anniversary of Sowers and inviting all our former employees, and that's going to be quite a group of people. But you had this opportunity to invest in people. Just yesterday, we sat with a Russian man who's just got here a year or two ago, and he wants to come to Sowers for a time and better himself because he sees the environment. He can tell that it's a upbuilding environment, and he wants to get into that. And it's just going to be for a time, and that's okay. But I think we can, if you have a good core, right, you can handle some of that, and life is sustainable. But it's when you have your whole team switching out, that's when it's moves quickly to not sustainable. So yeah, well, good job. All right, well, hey, let's open it up here for a second, here, or not for a second, for a couple minutes. Hop right in with your questions. Just unmute your mic and ask the questions. Just pop them right away.
Yeah, thank you, Ray, for your presentation. I enjoyed that a lot. Hey, just a question for you. When you were opening there, I found it interesting how much marketing was done through the newspaper, through the television, et cetera. And I'm curious, here you are in 2025. Are you doing a lot of ongoing marketing at this point? And if so, what does that look like?
No, in short, that's my answer. We constantly have radio stations, you name it, calling, wanting to do advertising for us, and it's sometimes it's hard for them to understand we don't need it. And what do you do with more business when you can't hardly handle what you have? Kelowna has an annual tourism guide. We put an ad in there. Johnson County, which is the county that Iowa City is in, they put out an annual tourism guide. We do put an ad in there. That's it. That is basically it. I'm trying to think what we do, Facebook and Instagram, but that's primarily used just to get notices out to people if we're changing hours or closing for a day or whatever.
Sure.
No, we just don't do any advertising.
Thank you.
That's a good problem to have. But
Well,
you know what
I
I think
guess
is very interesting though is that nice to get you kicked off there, it was quite challenging, but to have that advertising is huge. And we're as we work with new cafes, especially when you're moving into a pretty significant lease, you got to really plan for that, and look for those opportunities to get that word out there. So you're not losing, money for so many months. So getting that line, getting that door swinging is very important. So that was neat that happened for you without much intentionality at all. So that's great. All right, any other questions for Ray?
Hey Ray, it's Chad with Cafe 32.
Yeah.
As you reflect on 7 years, what is the biggest thing you would do different?
I would try to organize my work so that I could spend more time out on the floor. I love doing that. And I wear a name tag typically. It's just my name. Everybody here wears a name tag, just their name. And so people know when I walk through that I belong here, or at least pretend to. And so oftentimes it's not hard to get a conversation going. And I love to find out where they're from and what brought them here. And I would love to do that more. I probably went for 3, 4 years, did very, very little of that. Too busy, or I thought I was. And that would be one thing I would like to do different. But the other thing too is um, I would try to delegate more right off the bat, right up front. Delegate things out that I don't really need to do.
Thank you.
It's good. All right, here's your chance. We have a nice little crowd on here. It's great to see so many on here.
Anybody interested in hearing what our ministry looks like?
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
We really don't have any scheduled events here at the cafe except there's a campus ministry group on the university campus, excuse me, called SALT. I don't know if you've ever heard of them before. And there's a large church here in Iowa City that is supporting the local SALT ministry. And they come in here a lot. Those students come in, they bring others with them, but they'll sit down, they'll open the Bible, and they'll start talking scripture with the other student that they bring in here. I love to see that. One of the things that I have become convinced of, and that is anytime the Word of God is opened in this place, the presence of God comes in because that's God's Word. And so I love to see that happen. And then they'll sit there for a while talking. Pretty soon they'll be praying, and they pray out loud because they know they're allowed to do that here. And I have not had one customer yet complain about having to listen to somebody pray. And so it happens a lot. SALT then 3 times in the spring and 3 times in the fall we'll have a freshman evening here at the cafe. It'll be after hours for us, but we bring in a couple of people to make coffee for them and just to be here for insurance purposes. And they use the facility, very respectful people, and they clean up after themselves. And then also we have crew which is the current name for Campus Crusade for Christ. Crew comes in a lot, and we have developed a repertoire with them, or a friendship relationship with them. They come in and all they have to do is say, we want a crew cup or we want a salt cup. We give them an empty cup. They go get their coffee. It's free. So they get all the free coffee they want. Crew comes in Friday forenoons and they take a table and they bring students in. And there's never more than like 3 crew people. The rest of them are visiting students, perhaps. And they bring them in and they sit down. They'll either play a game with them or they'll have a Bible study with them, or both. We have, I don't know whether it's a good thing or not, but we have determined, the board and I, that that kind of ministry is very effective. They do a better job at it than perhaps we can do. And do they look like we do? No. It's like I told Brian earlier, I keep praying that in their Bible study, they run across the principle of modesty and understand what the scripture is teaching there. And haven't seen a lot of effect on that yet, but we keep praying. And we talk to some of the people that are heading up Salt and Crew. We know them personally, and they're so grateful for this opportunity to be able to come here and use the facility. So that's a large part of our ministry, is just taking care of them.
Yeah, very interesting. That's wonderful. And, we see that a lot of that too. I was actually in talking with Ray earlier today, discussing his talk here. We were on that subject, and I told him at Sowers in the last year or so, we've been seeing like this increase of students that are reading the Bible. And it aligns with Barnapol's. Barnapol says that even though Christianity is dropping here in the U.S., less people going to church, less people saying that they're Christian. There's, in Gen Z and some of the younger generation, there's the interest in the Bible, and people getting into reading it. And so I think it's an opportunity for us, with our cafes to encourage that. We can just could be as simple and as neat as collaborating with a ministry and just blessing their work. We do our part, you do your part, and it's really neat. And yeah, and they love coming in. Yeah, we see that too. Love coming in.
And we see a
And
lot of students coming in on a daily basis, or almost daily basis. Mornings, they come in, and a number of them have told me, well, we'd like to come in here to have our personal devotions here. And that you'll see them back there reading the Bible and journaling. I don't like to, let's see, I'm not sure how to say this. I want to be careful how I say this, but there were some of the women's basketball team that were Christians, and one of them in particular would come in, and I would see her out there studying her Bible and talk to her a little bit, and of course she played basketball with CC, and that's all I'm going to say about that. You figure out who that was, but she loved the Lord, and one day she was in here with her father and a brother. And so I went out to talk to him a little bit, and then I just chatted with Dad a bit and told him how I admired the faithfulness of his daughter and her willingness to just be open about her faith and her belief in Jesus. And got a letter from him about 2 weeks later. Just such an encouraging letter for me, just what I needed to hear, I guess, at the time. But just appreciated my interest in his daughter having a good place to go to like this. And I showed the letter to her later, and she sat there and just cried. And then I found out that her mother had died of cancer about 2 years earlier. So those kind of associations and friendships are invaluable to me. I love doing that.
Amen. And there's seeds. I like to say that these cafes are Luke 8 ministries. You're sowing seeds. and you can sow a lot of seeds, and you never know how they will what will happen there.
I'm curious to know, do any of you have coffee clutches coming into your coffee shops, cafes, on a regular, like a weekly basis?
Like you mean coffee clubs? Is that what you mean by that?
Yeah, men or ladies or whatever that just get together every week and have chosen your place to come to.
Yeah, we sure do. How about it, Nevin? Lots of those. It's crazy. Yeah, it's almost like and they come in, they'll camp for a number of hours, and hey, we never chase anybody out. I see others nodding their heads here as well. Yeah.
Yeah, every Thursday morning we have a group of older men come in, and they are a part of what used to be a barbershop group, singing group here in
Okay.
Iowa City. And they every now and then they'll discover one of the customers has got a birthday, so they hop up and they sing happy birthday for the customer, and that's kind of a neat little thing. But
That's
but
cool.
these guys are so funny, and yeah, we just really have a wonderful relationship with them. And then there's some ladies that come in, and then they go back in the back corner behind the fireplace where the soft seating is, and they occupy that for quite a while on a Friday forenoon. So we love it. It's one of those things and I've told staff over and over, we will never ask anybody to leave unless they're obnoxious or loud or do
Right.
inappropriate things. And
Hmm.
right now we have a homeless guy that comes in probably 2 or 3 times a week, and he's always talking to himself, and sometimes he talks very loud to himself and becomes obnoxious, and we've had to ask him to just come back some other time. So,
Sure. Yeah. Very well. Well, any more questions for Ray here? We could go on here for a while. Ray, one of your strong points too has been just efficiency in the kitchen, like figuring out equipment, better ways to do processes. I've always been quite jealous of your gift there with that. That's huge. And I've been telling our team I want to send a person or two out there just to spend some time with you in your kitchen. Work smarter, not harder, right?
yeah, one of
Uh,
the latest things that we just purchased was an egg breaker.
wow.
You can
Tell me
find it
about
on
that.
YouTube, but our accountant came to me and he said, "Ray, you got to get one of these." He was watching the girls back here morning after morning breaking eggs by hand. And they get good. They do it pretty
Right.
fast. But this thing, you just take a flat of eggs and just take it up and dump it in the top, and the red or the yellow juice comes flowing out a tube into the container. It's amazing. Biggest problem, we just got it. We have a little bit of balance problem, and the thing starts shaking. So we're going to figure out a way to fasten it down. But in no time, you can have a whole case of eggs run through broken, and you have the scrambled egg stuff there. So we're hoping it'll save us enough time, as well as maybe not buying as much liquid egg. We buy a
Hmm.
fair amount of liquid egg to add to
Mm,
shelled egg.
okay.
But
Yeah, we crack all our eggs there, and our grill guys get amazingly good at it. But we will definitely be checking into that. That's exactly what we needed to hear here.
I
Hmm.
thought it was a little bit overpriced, and maybe the more people buy, maybe they'll come down. But it really is a neat piece, and works well if it doesn't shake too much.
Sure. Well, I'll get that link from you for that, and I'll drop it then onto our extend roundtable chat there. So great, thank you, Ray. Yeah, and that's Ray's forte. There is very efficiency, ergonomics. Making sure you don't have to walk. All those things is really they put a lot of work into that. And you've had other board members too, who've been that's been kind of their niche as well. I've just it's been neat to see that kind of collaborative effort there. And so you've developed a lot of things there that we can learn from. So maybe we'll have to all maybe we can maybe you'll host an extend conference there in Iowa City sometime. How's that sound?
Hey, I'd love to.
Okay.
Would
All
love
right.
to.
We'll keep that in mind. Hmm. All right. Hey, fantastic. Well, it's Ray. Thank you so much. That's been a
My
real
pleasure.
blessing to have you on here and
Just want to
share.
say, God bless every one of you and your ministries, your work, and what God has called you to. I am amazed at what has happened across the country since Sower started, since we started. I don't know if there's any way to know how many startups there have been that have been off of either Sowers or the Encounter or some of your other facilities, and what a blessing.
Yeah. Well, I have this quote here on our homepage of the Extend Cafes. It says this: "We change the world by our example, not by our opinion or vote. The fast casual restaurant industry is latent with opportunity to show the world a better way. Imagine with me what could happen if every community would have a cafe focused on creating a peaceful space to
Hmm.
cultivate conversations that change the world.
Hmm.
Imagine the impact we could have. And
Mhm.
these college towns, you're reaching the world. There's
Mhm.
people that have sat at your tables that are now back in Saudi or Iran or Syria, or
Turkey.
people who are in the upper echelons of society have been impacted, and they're back making decisions, making and influencing their world, and they remember what they experienced there. Yeah. All right. Well, again, Ray, thank you so much. And I know that you have a company thing going on this afternoon, so
Yeah.
you can consider yourself dismissed whenever you want. You can
Where
just go
do
ahead and
I,
hop off.
what,
So,
what button do I push to?
you just
Thank you. Thank you all for your time. I really am hoping that I can make the Extend conference, and if that means I need to send you some money, you got to let me know.
all
And
right.
I
That
might be
sounds
able to find some somewhere.
okay. That sounds good. We'll be in touch, Ray. Thank you
All
again.
right. Thank you. God bless everyone.
God bless you too. All right. So next, we're going to have Nevin talk to us about the Extend conference. So Nevin, as you know, works part time for Extend Cafes, and also he works at our cafe part time. And so he's the one leading out with the Extend conference here. So all yours, Nevin. Tell us about it and why we should be there.
Yes, thank you, Bryant. Yes, I am Nevin Atkinson. I work at Sower's Harvest Cafe. I'm the barista supervisor there. Work part-time for Extend Cafes and um, and am organizing the Extend conference. So yeah, starting a cafe is hard. Running a cafe is hard, and running a profitable cafe is hard. And so many new cafes end up failing, and that's why Extend Cafes exists. Cafes provide so many great opportunities to live out the Great Commission in your day-to-day life, and we want to see the cafes with a kingdom vision be the ones to succeed. Um, and we're doing this by offering education, training, and resources and collaboration. And with the Extend Conference, we want to bring that all together in person in State College here in March. Really excited about it. Place to learn, network, connect, meet Ray in person, meet Bryant, meet Joe from Up in Coordination, Josh Puffer, all these great people, and be energized for the kingdom, for extending the kingdom through your cafe. And so I just want to invite you all to join us. 7:30 in the morning is when we're starting. Continental breakfast, an incredible coffee bar. Afterwards, we'll have some sessions and get to hear from the likes of like Gary Nolt from Javataza. He'll give us the rundown on coffee beans and their journey from the coffee farm to the roaster. We'll get to hear from Andy Weaver, Bryant Martin, and maybe some more on the traits of flourishing cafes. What are some of those things that make a cafe flourish? I'll be doing a workshop on coffee tasting, and since it's in person, we'll actually get to drink coffee in it. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And there's, of course, going to be plenty of time in between sessions for coffee refills and connecting with others. So if you're a manager or an employee or starting a cafe, maybe you're just interested in the cafe world, there's a place for you in State College on March 12th at the Extend Conference. Really looking forward to seeing you there. Registration is opening next Thursday, January 16th, and you can register on extendcafes.com. Right.
That sounds good. Thank you so much, Nevin. Yeah, we're excited. As we mentioned earlier, we did one of these back in 2019, and let's see, was anybody on this call there at 2019? Ray was, but he's off now. He must have figured out how to get out of the Zoom. He's hilarious. I don't. Yeah, none of you were there. That was an amazing time. We had Timothy.
Hey, Weaver
actually,
from the Whitecap.
Hey, Andy Weaver. There you are. And you weren't even open yet. I don't believe, Andy.
No, we weren't.
Yeah. So you guys opened up in 2020, right in the midst of the COVID pandemic, which was not planned, right? But you made the best of it. But yeah, So we had quite a crowd turn out there. It just grew. It just boom. The word got out, and so we had our hands full. But it was definitely a taste of something that we wanted to see happen again. And here we are. Looking forward to Extend Conference. We put it right before Reach. So if you're coming to Reach, you can come there. We think it's kind of funny. We'll have Extend before Reach. How's that? And then we're hoping to grow this conference into more workshops, maybe even to more of a kind of a trade show type thing where we have people there with products. The sky's the limit on this on this deal. So please help us get the word out. Get the word out to your teams. Get the word out to your friends. We're actually we have a neat little graphic designed that we're gonna drop on to the roundtable WhatsApp chat. Forward that out to your WhatsApp groups, to your team. Put on your status. And let's get the word out because we're kind of last minute here, putting this together. It's just we've been working very hard behind the scenes with Extend on a number of different areas, developing that. And at the conference, we're going to talk a little more about some of the services and ways that Extend Cafes can help you all. So, but we are excited about some of these public events, where anyone's invited to these roundtables. Invite people to the roundtables. Anyone's invited to Extend Conference, as Nevin was saying. So come and join us there and make it a great time. But yeah, any questions from any of you there? Nevin, did you give the price, what it's going to cost per person?
I did not, but it's going to be $50.
Okay. Yeah, $50 a person. So, and we're hoping to, we want to, you can help us, the ones of you who are coming. We want Extend Conference to be the most hospitable conference ever. We want to see Extend setting the tone, helping set the tone within the Kingdom Cafe world of what it means to be hospitable, what it means to nurture that love of stranger and have a welcoming place. So come and join us, help us create that culture. And also at Extend, we have a wild dream, and our dream is 30 new cafes by 2030. So Ray was talking about in the last just 7 years, the explosion of cafes since Encounter started, since we started 10 years ago. And I think that we could triple it. And especially where we're creating some tracks to run on, which is the goal of Extend Cafes, to really nurture that and help grease the wheels to help make that happen. So 30 cafes by 2030, what do you think? So help us make that happen.